I am about to host my first political fundraiser, and like every single party I've ever had, moments before, I have complete anxiety about whether anyone at all is going to actually show up. My name is Dave Kerpen, and I am the candidate.
What does it really take to run for local office? On The Candidate, we're pulling back the curtain on the messy, expensive, and sometimes bizarre world of local politics. Join us as we share the unfiltered truth about what happens before you see those campaign signs pop up in your neighborhood. I'm your host, Jess Milanis. We're following serial entrepreneur Dave Kerpen as he dives headfirst into the world of local politics. Ready for a change in the world? This is your opportunity to be the candidate. Making the right hiring or rental decision isn't just important, it's essential. At AccuData, they provide fast, accurate, and compliant background screening services that help businesses, landlords, and property managers make informed choices with confidence. From criminal background checks to employment verification and credit reports, their comprehensive screenings ensure you hire and lease with peace of mind. And with their easy-to-use client portal, managing background checks has never been simpler. Trust the experts who put accuracy, compliance, and customer service first. Visit AccuDataHoldings.com today and start screening smarter. We've all been there. I swear. Isn't
it crazy?
It's so crazy. And you feel like so vulnerable inviting people into your home. And then there's this extra vulnerability on top of it as a politician who is fundraising, and you need these dollars, you need these people to support you. So that fundraiser was on Monday. How did it go?
So the great news is it went amazingly. People did come. We had just about, I don't have an exact count. It's between 70 and 80. I really should have an exact count because they were all supposed to donate at the door. And it does get a little crazy and multiple entrances to my home. And so I'm still tracking down a few people that I'm not sure whether they were there or whether they gave. But we had almost 80 people, Jess, and it was really amazing. The chairman of the Democratic Party in New York State, Jay Jacobs, came and he introduced me and he pledged $5,000 on the spot. And I thought it was great, but I didn't realize until afterwards how much of a surprise and good sign that was. Apparently, he very, very rarely does that. He's usually sort of personally giving like pretty late in the campaign and after candidates have gotten a lot of traction. So that he did that right there was really, really great. And he did it when I had announced that we had raised $121,000 in our first 30 days.
Wow.
And then somebody else, this amazing young Democrat who ran for Congress, I may have mentioned it before on the podcast, his name is Zach. He did a matching pledge of $5,000. So all of a sudden we had raised $131,000, which is an amazing start in our first 30 days. I think I mentioned this before on the podcast. We have to raise $1 million, which is a lot. But I know I can do it. And it's funny, I posted that online afterwards, and one of my consultants, Isaac, said that I should not share how much money we've raised publicly because it gives the Republicans a target. And I said, well, I'm running on transparency.
Yeah.
I've been transparent my whole life. I'm proud of how many supporters we got so quickly and how much money we raised. And so I am going to share it. And he goes, why do I think this is going to end up on the podcast? I said, good idea. Well, it'll end up on the podcast. So congratulations, Isaac. I won that battle, but I appreciated his insight. And the Republicans know how much, but I already knew they were going to raise more than $1 million. And so, they might raise $3 million. They might raise $5 million. I don't care. If I raise $1 million, I know that I have enough with my amazing team's creativity and with a whole bunch of creative tricks I have up my sleeve as well to win this thing. So yeah, it was an amazing night. I mean, Carrie is super biased, but she said it was the best speech she's ever seen me give. And she's seen me
Oh,
give quite a few speeches through the years in my business career and whatnot. So that was really nice. It was a crazy mix. Maybe half the crowd was close friends who have either never been to a political fundraiser or never given to a political candidate, or maybe once in their life to a presidential candidate, but certainly not, to a local candidate.
yeah.
And the other half of the crowd was like Democrats who I had never met or I had met once in the last like 2 months, like as I prepared to run. So like mixing those two very different groups together in a room was super, I think probably odd for a lot of people, but I mean,
Was it
I
like
had a
a middle
blast.
school dance where one group was on one side and the other group was on the other, and they were like, "Are you going to talk to the? Are you going to talk to the boys?
Are you going
Are
to
you going
talk
to
to the
talk to the
Democrats?
girls?"
Are you going to talk to the friends? Well, that was the other thing. So, I had three friends, not one, not two, but three that were lifelong Republicans that came and contributed. And that was great. It was great because, it told me that there were people out there that believed in me regardless of politics. But it also was a nice reminder that, like, again, in a local race for town government, the partisanship makes so little sense. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, right? It's really not about. It shouldn't be about politics, partisanship. It should be about doing right by my neighbors and town.
I also want to say it shouldn't matter even at a state or federal level either. I mean, it's a human characteristic to label things. You
Yeah.
need to label things in order to identify or agree with or disagree with. It just really sucks that there's two.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sucks. And look, I've talked to a lot of people about this. There is a reality here that no matter how much education I do, no matter how much I get out there, no matter how many people I meet, a lot of people come election day will not know what I stand for. They won't know me. They won't have listened to this amazing podcast of yours, and they are going to vote based on the letter that they see next to my name, the D or the R.
Yeah.
And so all I can do is get out there as much as I can and hope that there's a combination of enough people that do know me and people that are still D's and voting D to win the election. On that end, as I mentioned to you, I will quite possibly run on a third party ticket as well, which by the way, my consultants would probably say I also shouldn't talk about, but oh well.
We're being
Um,
transparent. We're being a
it,
likable government.
exactly. It's hard though, ballot access is no small thing, and it's very, very hard even to get on the ballot. Now, my main job now, besides fundraising, is getting on the ballot and getting petitions signed. That basically, I need a couple thousand signatures of people on petitions to get me on the ballot, and that's as a Democrat. And then if I were to run on a third party line as an independent or as a as another party, I would need more thousands more signatures, and it's intimidating, especially I haven't done that. Obviously, I haven't done that on my own, and the Democrats at least have a really cool, and I'm sure the Republicans do too. Kind of organization to set up, having people walk door to door and signing petitions, getting petitions signed in their neighborhood. So the other thing we did since our last podcast, we did a petition kickoff and hosted about 45 people who are going to be walking door to door in the town of North Hempstead to get signatures to get me on the petitions, to get me on the ballot.
Starting your morning with back-to-back meetings? Dunkin' has been keeping America's leaders moving for generations. Try our new brown sugar cookie cold brew, topped with brown sugar cold foam. Smooth, bold, and perfectly balanced. Pair it with a fresh baked croissant when you need that extra boost. Join DD Perks through the Dunkin' app or at Dunkin.com and start earning rewards on every purchase. The candidate runs on Dunkin'. I don't want to go too much into this third party line, but it, really quickly, like it seems like there's going to be duplicative efforts here.
Yeah. I mean, if we do a third party, it will be because the reality is that the Democratic brand is in a pretty weak state right now.
Yeah.
And especially since my values um, don't necessarily, I mean, hard to say what's Democrat and what's Republican, but I am definitely running on and promising more efficiencies in government, reforming the building code, making things easy, and spending less money in government.
Hmm.
These are things that traditionally aren't necessarily aligned with Democrats of recent. I am also, as anyone would know that follows me, staunchly pro-Israel, and proud to be Jewish and believe that Jews have a right to have a state, one tiny little state where it's our own. And that has, again, shouldn't be Democrat versus Republican, but with the exception of a couple of very, very strong Democrats, Tom Suozzi actually in Long Island, Richie Torres in New York, that has become a bit more of a Republican issue. And so by my running on a third party, I would be showing, yes, I'm a Democrat, but also I believe in these values, and it's important that people know that don't know me otherwise, right? It's like that party line becomes your 20-second education on a candidate for the vast majority of people that aren't listening to this podcast, that aren't reading all the literature, that aren't reading the newspapers, that aren't doing their own research. The reality is some people do all of that, but that's a lot of time and effort. And who has that time? I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when we had our last election in November here, I did my best to research all the local candidates. But my God, I think all in there were like 15 or 20 different sections
Yeah.
on the ballot with multiple candidates per each. And I am not the math person here, you are, but that just exponentially increases time. And we're in a time crunched world, and it would be great if there was a way to capture this all in a very aggregated, easy way. But even then, I don't know that people would spend the time because they want to identify as something.
Yeah.
It's easier to identify as something than to do the research.
It's funny, Jess, we sort of try to loosely script out the podcast, and then, we end up having a conversation, and this is something I've never thought about, never researched, so maybe it's been talked about, but I wonder, and certainly you and I didn't talk about this, but I wonder what it would look like if candidates could have like 160 characters or like 3 lines of text next to their name to write anything they wanted, and whether that would make a difference, right? So right
Yeah.
now, literally the only thing next to your name is a D or an R or an I, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all you get. And I wonder how elections might be different if on the ballot, and again, I'm literally just making this idea up because I have no idea if this has been researched or what the cost would be of printing, right? There would have to be
Yeah.
obviously a limitation, right? So, but even like a tweet size amount of text or a short paragraph next to each candidate would be infinitely more information than voters have access to right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can talk about, the need for voters to get educated and the need for candidates to educate them. But to your point, there's just a reality here that time isn't, people are time starved, worse than ever before. People are busy. There's, information overload, and the time when people need that little teeny bit more information than they have is literally right when they're in the room about to vote. And who knows how things would be different. It would be super interesting. You can't really do this with elections, but my business mind wants to A/B test that, right, and see what differences there would be in voting if people knew a little bit more about the candidates because there was that information right next to them. But in the meantime, I don't have that, so we may run on a third party line in addition to the Democrats. I mean, I'm a Democrat, right? Whether whether you, the listener, likes it or not, whether it makes me more or less electable, I am a Democrat. So, but I also have all these concerns and all these values that, you know, there's just I have a member of my team. She's a leader. We argue a lot, but I love her. Sabi. I'm gonna start naming names because why
Hey,
not?
Sabi.
Yeah. And she says to me, look, no one's gonna agree with you on 10 out of 10 issues, but if they agree with you on 7 out of 10 issues, then they should vote for you.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's kind of probably the case with all Democrats and Republicans, right? Like hopefully people have nuanced concerns and are really thoughtful candidates and voters. And if that's the case, then and it's almost never black and white. But if we feel like, for me, like everything I feel strongly about, right? Like, so I'm not going to change who I am because it doesn't fit with the narrative of being a Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there is some precedents set against that. There's other folks who have been Democrats and have shifted, which is really interesting to see how things are just shaking out and people are able to change their ideas and are able to align with different identities than what they were originally. So it's going to be really interesting to see, as you start exploring this third party seat, what that looks like and who comes out of the woodwork to support you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot will have to do with if I do it, what that third party is, right? What we name it, and how can we succinctly talk about what it would stand for in a way that, again, without people having the luxury of doing a lot of research, can look at one quick blurb, not even a blurb, whether it's, I'm not going to throw out ideas yet, but whatever that short word or phrase is, and what that stands for, and how to make sure that aligns not only with my values, but with the voters' values as well.
Yeah. So I think we need to wrap because Carrie needs to record, but
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be really interesting to follow, and I look forward to the next conversation that we have where we dive more into what this third party seat could look like and your role of your identity within this. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Jess.
Everyone's career path is different. Whether you're transitioning into public service or building your professional network, LinkedIn helps you make the right connections. Showcase your experience, discover new opportunities, and join conversations that matter in your industry. With LinkedIn Premium, you get insights about who's viewing your profile and advanced search filters to help find the right people. Start expanding your professional network today at linkedin.com. LinkedIn, connect to opportunity. Thanks for going behind the scenes with us on The Candidate. If you enjoyed getting the real story about running for office, take a moment to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Your support means the world to us. See you next time.